This film is based on a true story. Evan Crowder and his fiancée Jessica are happy together. But one evening returning home from the theater, they discover that their apartment has been ransacked, they've been robbed, and the intruder is still there. Pointing a gun at the couple, he demands that they hand over their wallet, purse and wedding rings. Life is worth more than money, so they comply, and the robber flees. The police arrive. Officer Tyler Haynes, a friend of Evan's, admits there's little chance of catching the thief. It's a rough neighborhood, and this sort of thing happens all the time. Drifters from the streets break into apartments. The incident makes the couple consider moving. They decide not to delay and soon buy a large house, believing it's a new chapter in their lives. Although it's a financial stretch to afford a private home, it's definitely worth it. Jessica, a freelance graphic designer and amateur detective, plans to take on more clients to help pay the bills. The couple begins renovating. Jessica jokes that they'll have to think hard about what to do with so many rooms. Suddenly there's a knock at the door. It's Simon, their neighbor. As a kind gesture he brings them a bottle of wine. Jessica notes how stylishly dressed the man is. Simon explains that he's just come from work. He teaches male psychology at the university. The couple invites their neighbor to dinner once the renovations are finished. He gladly accepts the invitation. Overall everything is going great. Jessica is deeply grateful to Evan, knowing he didn't really want to move. But he knows it was the right decision. Running late for work, Evan leaves. Jessica opens her laptop and gets to work as well. Her friend Oscar Garrett calls via video chat, asking how suburban life is treating her. As a hobby, Jessica and Oscar look into missing persons cases in the area. The woman gets so caught up in it that she loses track of time and fails to make dinner before Evan returns. He asks if she's finished her project. The man finds it unfair that while he works himself to exhaustion, she spends the entire day chatting with some guy. Yes, the loan is in his name, but Jessica promised to help with the payments. She assures him she will, it's just the first day. The next morning Jessica goes to Simon, thanks him for the wine and tells him that dinner will be on Thursday at 7:30. At the appointed time, Simon arrives. Once again he's dressed as if he lives in another century. Evan is grilling barbecue, unaware that their neighbor can't take his eyes off Jessica. Simon says that his family upheld traditional values, which made him somewhat old-fashioned. His mother stayed home and raised the children, while his father earned the money. Now Simon lives alone in a big house, though he once had a fiancée. But the kind of life he believes in wasn't what she wanted. Jessica in turn talks about her hobby. She's an amateur detective. She dreams of writing a book someday, once she finds an interesting story. Before bed, Jessica tells Evan that Simon smelled like women's perfume, which is strange considering he doesn't have a girlfriend. Evan jokes that maybe it's just a fancy cologne. The couple has no idea that their neighbor is spying on them through binoculars. One day while digging in the garden, Jessica asks Simon if he has a larger trowel. He replies that is broke. Noticing that his car trunk is full of groceries, the woman asks if he's expecting guests. Simon smiles and says he just hates shopping, so he prefers to buy everything at once. That evening Jessica shares her suspicions with Evan. She feels there's something off about their neighbor. Evan tells her to stop playing detective and accusing normal people of crimes. They're living in a house they can barely afford, and he's working a job he hates to keep it, while Jessica wastes her time on nonsense. Their argument is interrupted by a knock at the door. It's Simon again, bringing Jessica a new shovel. Evan invites him in for a drink, but Simon politely declines, saying he has a class early in the morning. When the man leaves, Evan says that the only strange thing about Simon is that he's actually nice. Tonight Evan slept on the couch in the living room. Jessica rings Simon's doorbell to return the shovel, but he doesn't seem to be home. Peeking through the window, she notices that the furniture inside is antique, as if from another century. The woman video calls Oscar and tells him about their strange neighbor. He dresses in an old-fashioned way, takes great care of his appearance and speaks unlike modern men. He's clearly hiding something. Meanwhile Simon, sipping expensive brandy with aristocratic poise, reviews the footage from the surveillance cameras inside and outside his house and sees that Jessica rang his doorbell. It makes him smile. The man calls Jessica and invites her to come over. She sees it as a chance to learn more and accepts. Simon gives her a dress in the 1950s style. But Jessica can't accept it. He seems disappointed, yet insists that she stay, saying the surprises aren't over. The man shows her footage from the surveillance cameras, the moment she peeked curiously through his window. That, he says, made him believe Jessica wants to be here with him. She already realizes she's trapped. Then Simon grabs Jessica and knocks her unconscious. Some time later, she wakes up in a room styled after the 1950s. A woman enters, also dressed in vintage fashion, and introduces herself as Robin. Desperate Jessica tries to escape, but the door has a keypad lock. So she breaks the window glass, only to find concrete walls beyond it. Robin explains that they're in Simon's basement. Jessica starts screaming for help. Robin urges her to stop, warning that Simon will get angry. Meanwhile, he sneaks into the Crowders' house and packs Jessica's things into a suitcase, as if she had decided to leave her boyfriend. When Evan comes home from work and calls for Jessica, there's no answer. Later, Simon goes down to the basement and demands that the women clean up the mess. Jessica tries to run, but another concrete door blocks her way. No one will hear her screams. Realizing that all her attempts are futile, Jessica goes back downstairs. Simon advises her to accept as soon as possible that this is her new home. If the women ever try to take his life, he says, they'll end up sealed forever in this stone tomb with his body, and no one will ever find them. Evan won't look for her either, because everything will appear as if she left him. Meanwhile, he is losing his mind with worry, desperately trying to reach Jessica. She would never have left without her laptop and phone. Robin, already frightened into obedience, prepares dinner for Simon. Jessica asks her how she ended up here. Robin replies that she was one of Simon's students. He lured her into his house. Whenever he comes downstairs, they play the role of a perfect 1950s family. Now Jessica will become part of that. Knowing she dreams of being a writer, Simon gives her a typewriter. Here he says she won't have to worry about anything a woman shouldn't worry about. The man genuinely believes the world has gone mad, filled with weak men and overburdened women. So he built this place to restore the proper order of things. The doorbell rings. It's Evan. Jessica tries to call out to him, but the basement soundproofing is too good. The women watch through an old television as Simon opens the door to Evan, who checked Jessica's phone and discovered that Simon had called her. He insists they haven't seen each other, only talked. Evan finds it strange that Jessica left her phone. She never goes anywhere without it. Apologizing for the disturbance, he leaves. Robin advises Jessica to forget her old life. It no longer exists for them. Evan calls his friend, Officer Tyler Haynes, and asks him to come over. The man doesn't believe Jessica would just walk out on him without saying a word, even though they've been arguing about money lately. Tyler reminds him about his affair back when he and Jessica weren't yet engaged. Maybe she found someone else. Either way, they should start by talking to the people Jessica's been in contact with, like Oscar Garrett, the amateur detective. After so many years, Robin has become the perfect obedient wife, and she believes it's her duty to help Jessica adjust. Evan and Tyler visit Oscar, but he has no idea where Jessica could be. At least she never mentioned any plans to leave. But Oscar brings up the neighbor Jessica didn't like. Evan goes back to Simon, this time with Tyler. They ask why he's been making so many purchases. The man lies, saying he's secretly seeing a woman. She's one of his former students, so he prefers to keep the relationship private. Jessica tries to convince Robin to escape with her, but she tearfully says their place is here. At that moment, Simon enters and demands that Jessica write down her email and password. She has no choice. The man also wants her to wear the dress he bought for her that evening. Posing as Jessica, Simon writes Evan a message saying she's met a man who truly cares for her. Evan can't believe that after 6 years together, Jessica would just end things without even talking to him. Simon demands absolute obedience from his captives. He gloats that Evan now believes his fiancée left him. When Jessica calls him insane, the man subjects her to brutal punishment. Robin doesn't intervene, out of fear and because she's convinced Simon loves them both. Now Jessica too is forced to dress and wear makeup in 1950s style, and to please Simon in every way. The women cook dinner for him, playing the part of perfect wives. But unlike Robin, Jessica refuses to accept her fate, and when Simon lets his guard down, she strikes him over the head with a frying pan. The man regains consciousness tied up. Jessica is going to torture him until he gives her the code. However, Robin, overcome by Stockholm Syndrome, rushes to Simon's aid, knocking Jessica to the floor. The man frees himself and grabs his captive, subjecting her once again to punishment. Later, Robin explains to Jessica that it had to be done. There used to be another woman here, Megan. She too couldn't love Simon and kept trying to escape. As punishment, the man forced Robin to take Megan's life. She won't survive that a second time. Simon approaches Evan, pretending to be concerned about Jessica's disappearance. He invites his neighbor over for a drink. Evan agrees, anything to avoid spending another night alone in an empty house. At that moment, Jessica hits the ceiling with a mop, but the walls are completely soundproof. Evan feels that Simon understands him like no one else. Watching through the old television as the two men sit on the couch chatting amicably, Jessica cries in despair. Robin once again tells her to forget her past life. Later, Simon sets his condition for Jessica. If she ever tries to escape again, Evan will suffer. From now on, she must obey. To rid himself of the pain, Evan throws away all of Jessica's things, unaware that she's imprisoned in the house next door. 6 weeks later, Evan puts the house up for sale, deciding to move back to the city. Alone, he'll never be able to pay off the loan. Robin begins to grow jealous of Simon's attention toward Jessica, accusing her of flirting with him. Lately he's been spending far more time with Jessica. Robin can barely hold back tears when she sees Jessica kindly offering to check Simon's students' papers. The woman starts turning Simon against Jessica, saying she still loves Evan and is planning an escape. She also tells Simon that no one will ever love him as much as she does. The man decides to confront Jessica and demands an explanation. She insists Robin is lying. In that moment, Simon takes Robin's life right before Jessica's eyes, believing Jessica will make the worthier wife. It takes all her strength to keep her composure. Simon orders her to turn up the music. Jessica sobs in her room. The music can't drown out the sound of the saw. Oscar calls Officer Tyler Haynes and says he's managed to uncover something. Everywhere Simon has ever taught, a female student went missing. He was fired from one of the universities for inappropriate behavior toward a student right before her disappearance. That same evening Tyler arrives at Simon's house. By that time Jessica has already managed to completely convince Simon of her loyalty. The man politely invites Tyler inside and allows him to look around. Tyler asks about a missing student, Robin Simmons. The professor doesn't deny that he dated her but insists he had nothing to do with her disappearance. Tyler then asks about another missing student, Megan Carswell. Simon claims the name doesn't sound familiar. When Tyler turns away, the abductor knocks him out and later drives his body far away. Upon returning, Simon apologizes to Jessica. She embraces him, saying he had no choice. The woman tells him that no one has ever cared for her the way he does. Simon desperately wants to believe her, but he can't. Buyers have been found for Evan's house. He is broken by the disappearance of his beloved and the death of his friend. The professor wishes him luck in his new life. For the first time the man allows Jessica to go upstairs. He wants to test the strength of her trust. Jessica doesn't know he's hiding a gun behind his back, but she's smart enough not to rush toward the front door or call for help through the window. Amazed, Simon asks what she thinks about Evan moving back to the city. Jessica says she feels sorry for him and that it would be nice to cheer him up somehow. The man suggests the idea of giving him a bottle of his favorite wine. Evan is touched by such a kind gesture from his neighbor, though something about it makes him uneasy. It's his last night in that house. Simon is over the moon, believing that Jessica truly loves him. She's the perfect wife he's always dreamed of. In the morning Evan receives a call from Oscar, who says he spoke to Tyler on the day he died, about Simon. This makes Evan suspicious. Jessica prepares a small home picnic for her captor, baking her signature vegetable pie, when suddenly the alarm goes off. It's Evan breaking into the house, calling out for Jessica. Smelling the pie, he realizes she's here. Simon attacks him. A fight breaks out between them. Meanwhile Jessica frantically tries to figure out the lock code, and finally succeeds. She saves Evan. A year later, Jessica takes a difficult step, visiting Simon in prison. She wants to see his cage. Earlier during the trial, she asked the judge to overturn the death sentence and instead condemn Simon to a lifetime of captivity. Captivity didn't break Jessica, it inspired her, and she gives Simon a copy of her book before walking away. It's a good ending, at least for her. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.